Hey guys, Kamina the coach here. So I'll just start off with the way I always do. If you don't know me, I was overseas for almost 10 years. I've been coaching for, gosh, 13 years or something like that. So after I'd been overseas for quite a period of time, I started coaching people to help them to get overseas to work. Um, so that was what this channel was dedicated to. And helping people get right in their mind, getting right spiritually and emotionally, because that is a really, really big move for a lot of people. COVID forced me back into the United States, so I rededicated the channel to my adoption journey, because when I started the coming out of the fog process, there just wasn't a lot of information out there for people like me. And to be quite honest, it doesn't feel like there are a ton of people like me. So if you share some of my background, then you may be feeling the same way. So hopefully this channel reaches you. I have been very pleased that it's also reached some parents. So a very unintended side effect. So that's really beautiful. So what makes me so different? What makes me unique? Aside from being a highly sensitive person genetically, so my nervous system is more sensitive than most people. I'm also an INFJ, if you know anything about Myers-Briggs personality type. And more even than those two things, I'm also a transracial adoptee. So I identify as African American. I'm half African American and half Sicilian Italian, and I identify as African American, but I was raised by a white family who also didn't tell me I was adopted. So that is also something that makes me relatively unique. I am a late discovery adoptee. I didn't find out till I was 32 that I was adopted, and I didn't find out till I was 14 or so that I was Black. So yeah, some interesting stuff, interesting dynamics going on there. This video specifically is about support groups and group meetings and groups in general, all that stuff. So specifically support groups. So someplace that you go when you're in pain to find like-minded people. So recently on my healing journey, it's kind of radicalized. I went a different direction using psychedelics to open up my mind, and it's been beautiful. So beautiful. So I am not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, and I'm not recommending anything. But so I have achieved wonderful results, but I still need help. I've also recently had to let go of my therapist. But that doesn't change the fact that I need a community. I still need to process, I need to integrate. So I need some support. So I joined a support group. I won't tell you where because it's private, right? That's part of being part of a support group. But a support group that's, so not an adoptee support group, because I've also tried that and that didn't work for me either. I tried an adoptee of color support group and it ended up being not a good place for me. Let me not go into specifics, but it was not a good place for me. So again, a support group that ended up not being a good place for me. And this is what I've noticed. And I've heard a black female psychologist speak about that. She tried group meetings as well, and it was fine until she got to a certain place. And it's like when you're in crisis, when you're in your darkest place, it's a good place to start. But what do you do when you're out of that dark place, but you still need support? That's kind of where I'm at right now. So I have found some other groups, so I'm going to start cultivating. And so I found a cultivation group. I found a Black or BIPOC integration group. So hopefully that will go better. But so yeah, it doesn't serve me particularly to be in a group of people who are still where I was and not in a place to celebrate where I am now. and in a place to offer me additional tools to elevate. I also think that it's really toxic even to be in these groups where you're seen as better than or more elevated than. And I definitely don't see it on a spectrum. I don't see it as more than, because the truth be told, inside of myself, I'm still a little bit scared that I could potentially backslide. And I feel like that's always a possibility, or at least in my life anyways. I've had a lot of progress, but I've also in the past had a lot of progress and self-sabotaged pretty horribly. So a lot of people are scared, they're in pain, they're suffering, and when they see or when they witness somebody who has managed somehow to pull themselves out of the mire, it kind of stokes this sense of resentment, or I don't really know how to say it. It just wasn't a good feeling after a while. And then I spoke to somebody offline outside of the group. And also in speaking to her, I could get the inclination that, she apologized for cursing while we were talking. I'm like, and then I got to share that I was homeless, and that, that I was in the sex industry. And because you don't get that when you hear me speak. You don't get where I came from when you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. And it's hard for me because it makes me feel like I need to go into hiding again. Like I need to dim my light to make other people feel comfortable. So it's very isolating to be at this point in my healing journey and just not have a ton of people. Something else that has happened this week: on Monday, I cut off another friend, a really old friend, somebody who, if I got sick and was in the hospital, somebody would come. But somebody who also, I think that my growth is alienating, because my growth and my development made her feel exposed and made her feel like she wasn't growing at the rate that she needed to be. And I don't know, I'm just taking a guess, but she had attacked me at several places, that in things that she thought I should be doing, but that she has never ever done for herself. It was hard. It was a hard decision. It was a hard week. Hard decision to let go of her. But again, like this healing and growing, it's like when I was sicker and not as well, and when I was a barfly, it was like I had a lot of people. But the more well I become, or the more whole, let's say that, the more whole I become, the less cracked. Like I'm cracked, but my cracks are sealing now, and I'm actually able to hold stuff because I'm becoming whole. And it's really interesting that as I become whole, I feel like I become more isolated, because people are just resentful as they watch my story unfold the way that it is. Never mind the fact that I've been on my own almost my entire life. I was raised by racists, that I lived in the streets, that the cops asked me to leave my home when I was 14 years old. Never mind all that other stuff. Like, we're offended and we're scared that you're healing and we're not healing. You're healing at a rate that we want to be healing at that rate. And I've said this in several of my other videos recently. You don't serve yourself by comparing your story up next to everyone else's. My story, nor anyone else's story, is parallel to yours. We are not the same person. So, you're really not doing yourself any justice when you're comparing yourself up next to me or anyone else that you deem is further ahead. I don't know how much traction this video will get. Really, it's more for me. I needed just to get it out. It's a hurtful feeling. It's so isolating. Who would have thought that healing and that growth means so much loneliness and isolation? But the truth is that I would rather feel lonely and isolated than surrounded by people that are not healthy, that are not sharing my values, and that can't potentially learn and grow from my learning and my growth. That perspective may change. At 42, I've come to terms with the fact that, my perspective changes a lot because I'm really, really growing and changing a lot at this age even. And hopefully will continue to grow and change as I get older. So I would just love some love and support. Not really any advice other than don't compare yourself up next to people. It's only going to make you feel bad, and speaking from somebody who has people compare themselves up next to me, it hurts me too. So it's not good for any of us, so don't do it. So send me some love, light, peace, and joy. I need it. And until the next time, my name is Kamina the Coach. Love, light, peace, and joy. I'll see you next time. Peace.